Hi, my name is Hannah Covington. I am a broadcasting major. You may have heard me on D93 last semester back in the fall on Tony Rose's morning show. And I am currently an intern at Woohoo 107 in the afternoons with Andy Morgan on his show twice a week.
All right. I guess that's my cue. I'm Caroline Corson. I am an English major and an American Sign Language minor. I am hard of hearing, and I would diagnose with autism around, I think, like 15 years old. And yeah, that's it for me.
My name is Shay Ryan Kessler. I am a psychology major, and I was diagnosed when I was 13.
Hi, my name is William Cox. I am a sophomore here at Western Kentucky, and I am a meteorology major, and I have been diagnosed with autism since I was in third grade.
I guess I didn't mention when I was. I guess I'm so dumb and have not said that.
You're not dumb.
You're not.
Well, it's been a week. I was diagnosed back when I was in elementary school between first and second grade.
Sounds like you were earlier.
I am an early diagnosed.
It is not common for females.
No, it is not. And we talked about this morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me and Emma Rudder are probably the two youngest diagnoses on the podcast so far.
So far, yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm average. I think like most girls are diagnosed around 15, 16 these days at least. Although there's still plenty of adult women who like finally get diagnosed at like 25 or something, which is crazy to me. Yeah.
I was only diagnosed because my mom is a middle school teacher, and she was trained to see it, and I was acting like a lot of her students were. But if both my parents are teachers, but if they weren't, then I probably would not have gotten diagnosed, and I would not be here right now.
Yeah, my own mother has connections in the education area. She worked for a board of education in a different county from here. She's the reason I'm probably as like articulate as I am. She got me hooked up with a lot of special programs and whatever, including, of course, the Kelly Autism program here.
Well, I actually started showing signs of autism back when I was 2 years old, after my parents noticed some strange behavior from me of the way how I was communicating with others and kind of doing some like actions that just didn't seem normal. But they waited all the way up until third grade, because when I was in third grade, I was struggling in school. I was struggling in life because I was struggling communicating with others, because a lot of people back then were making fun of me because of my autism, not just for that, but also the way how I was acting towards others, the way how, I was just communicating and all that. But after I went through all of this and living behind screens, feeling like I was isolated, my parents were like, okay, let's go and take him to get diagnosed, because something is up with him and he's struggling in school, and we can't let him go through this even longer. And so when I was taken to the doctor, I was young, so I didn't understand why. But then after we wrapped up our session, my mom met with the doctor to kind of talk about the results and all that. And I remember, my mom telling me that the doctor told her that he has signs of autism, and and basically from here, he just said like all the things that like he believed that, is going to be the likely case for the rest of my life. He said that I wasn't going to graduate high school. He said I wasn't going to graduate college. He said I wasn't really going to be making a lot of friends in my life because of all the communication issues I've had. And so from here, like I really felt like, life was just a roller coaster from that. But over time, I've overcome all these things. But, but really like, from y'all's perspective, that autism can hit people at a really young age. Maybe they may not see it at first, but over time, you're going to start noticing it, and then when it comes to that time, it's really going to start hitting you. And it really hit me when I was in elementary school, for sure.
Well, people are born with autism, and it's just when others are starting to notice slight oddities. Like I had, like, it was pretty obvious that I was autistic throughout my entire life, but people didn't really think about that, because when people think about autism, they think about like someone with an intellectual disability. It's not an intellectual disability. It's it's just its own separate thing. And because like I did not like going shopping. I would hide in the clothes racks when I was a little kid. I would poke holes through my clothes with a pencil. I still stretch my fingers out, and I would tear everything I had apart. I had no organizational skills. I could not control my tone of voice or facial expressions. I've gotten better at it, but I still suck at it. And it's something I'm gonna have to apologize for my whole life. But like people I was also told by a quote unquote professional expert. She actually wanted me to call her the master because she knew everything. It was like, well, you clearly know nothing, but okay. She told me also that I needed to accept the fact that I may never get a job, that I may never go to college, that I may never be able to live independently on my own. And she said all of these things and told me that people who were nonverbal could not make decisions for themselves. And that's just not true. And she told me that since I was diagnosed so late, since I was 13, I was diagnosed so late, in her opinion, that there wasn't much that they could do for me. I was like, well, I'm not asking you to cure me because I'm not diseased. Autism is not some kind of disease. It's not a curse. It's not brain damage. It's not a mental illness. It is just a disability. And like, there's nothing wrong with having a disability, especially because if given the opportunity, if given the proper help and given a chance, an actual chance, then it doesn't matter where we are on the spectrum. We can do whatever we want to do with our lives.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's, I believe you prove a point that I feel like in recent years that I feel like a lot of people on the spectrum are being told that these days that you're not able to, achieve, you're not going to be able to live independently. And that's something that, I have a fear of, that this is going on more and more, but it doesn't really matter if you're told that you can't really, if you're going to not be able to live on your own or, be able to do whatever you want to do. You just need to not listen to those people. They have their thoughts, but you have the capability of growing, and you have the chance to, accomplish so many things. Like so many people I know on the spectrum, they have been able to achieve things that they thought that they weren't able to do. Like I know so many people here at CAP, even some up to seniors here at CAP, that they have been able to achieve a lot of things that they couldn't do back when they were in elementary school.
Right.
And so, but I think just with that message of people telling us that we're not able to live on our own or we're not able to do all these things is honestly very frightening and disturbing.
Oh yeah, it's very frightening to hear. And most of these conversations are happening behind closed doors. People don't realize that because most of these conversations that are happening are behind closed doors. I don't like using that terminology, but that's what's happened to me. There was something said to me a couple years ago, back in 2021. Wow, that's so long ago. That I wouldn't make it into the broadcasting field if I quit a certain company. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so wrong for this person to tell me. Because after I left that company, I feel like I grew more as a person. Because I was surrounded by positive people who are willing to teach me and let me grow into the person I am today, who laughs on radio and will poke fun, laughs at radio and gets, yeah, I guess I'm just a happy, lively person.
something I want to mention too here is that, and something I want to kind of make sure everyone kind of knows is that it says something about our culture, I think, that we degrade the idea of needing assisted living, you know, or shaming people who won't be able to drive, or shaming people who won't be able to speak, or shaming people who cannot live alone, or shaming people who cannot live alone without supervision. You know, there's a lot of people who are autistic who do need a thing, who do need supervised care, and who maybe cannot live independent lives or cannot have jobs. And I am disturbed that we shame these people.
Right.
You know, and I'm ashamed that there are professionals who would make other people with autism afraid of that, you know. Because whether or not we need it is one thing. It's another thing to just say, like, that this is a bad fate, you know. Plenty of people who are in assisted living have the capacity to live happy, fulfilling lives with what they are able to do. And I don't know. I just kind of want to make that kind of clear that while most of us here are relatively low support folks, and we tend to be the people to speak the most on autism, there's just a whole nother side on the spectrum who cannot or struggle very much to speak for themselves.
Right.
And I don't want to like make out their situations to be like, I don't know, the way the professionals had talked about it with you two.
Well, I think that a lot of this mentality comes from major organizations that really just don't know anything about what they're doing, and they refuse to actually listen to us or try to figure out how to communicate with us. And I'm talking about places like Autism Speaks. That place needs to burn to the ground.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't really see it, but Hannah is wearing the Rainbow Infinity sign on her shirt.
No, it's 50th anniversary.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, the Rainbow Infinity sign is the proper symbol to use, not the puzzle piece, because that comes from a very ugly history that we have, and part of the culture is that we are an individualistic culture, not a collectivistic culture, which means everyone emphasizes independence and self-sufficiency, and above all, and that's not healthy. It doesn't help people. It doesn't even we're not even the only victims of this. It does not help people who struggle. I have a professor this semester who said something that I really like, and I would really like to quote is accommodations is not special treatment. It is not allowing people to abuse the system. It is not unfair to anyone else. It is leveling the playing field.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I very rarely use my faculty notification letter, which I educated on this morning. Because I'm like, we get overwhelmed, our plates get full, and we need help, and that might equal asking for extra time on an assignment before it's due, because we want to put our best work out. I remember back in the fall, I had an instructor, I'm not going to say names, I asked for an extension on a project because I knew I'd be dead tired after working a Halloween event. And I was like, look, I'm not going to get this done. And I got denied, and I was so infuriated.
They can't deny you. That's not legal.
If
If it's in your FNL, they have to.
Well, they didn't want to follow my FNL.
Was it ever followed up upon?
No, I didn't want to take it above because this instructor and I already did not have a good relationship at the current moment. So, welcome to my world.
I've had experiences a lot like that. Like when I was in middle and high school, I had an IEP, and teachers thought that they could pick and choose which accommodations they could give me and which they couldn't.
Yeah.
They also, one of them was horrible enough to make it obvious that I had accommodations, and because I needed to turn in I had extra time, extension accommodation, and I turned in a homework assignment late. Another kid wanted to do that. She refused it, and when he said, well, you accepted Shay's, she goes, well, you're not her. Like that just puts a target on kids' backs.
Yeah.
And I even had to drop a class last semester because I switched to online, but she wasn't much better, to be honest, because I struggle with my handwriting. Autism can affect your motor skills, and it affects my fine motor skills.
Yeah.
And writing is hard for me, and I can't write very fast if you want to read it. And so I have an accommodation to record the class with this app called Otter.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and it writes down it types out everything that people say, and it tries to distinguishes between voices and stuff too.
Yeah.
That's in my FNL to use
Yeah.
that. But this professor said that it was a violation of privacy for other students to record their voices, and she refused me. And I'm like, well, first of all, you can't refuse that. So let's have a meeting about it so that I can tell you what you have to do because it's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but then she had before we were able to meet, she had the class choose our rules for the classroom, and they went to groupthink so fast it was scary, and they said no phones at all, and she wrote it on the board. One person said, "Don't ask stupid questions," and she wrote that on the board. What defines a stupid question?
Yeah.
That's so
That's,
subjective.
yeah. Like, and I don't know. Like, there's no such thing as a stupid or dumb question, in my opinion, because sometimes the dumbest of questions can actually solve the biggest of problems.
I think there's a capacity for certain questions to be not effective, but I don't think that's a rule you want to enforce in an academic setting specifically.
Right.
Right.
And I think some questions are a little stupid because of we are put all of these rules on us. They are forced on us that the neurotypicals don't even follow themselves.
Yeah.
So there's no point in trying to stress yourself out about the proper socializing ritual when they won't even do it themselves. You're not allowed to be blunt, but they can say whatever they want to you. Like,
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's something.
I choose I will probably never work for Western again. Because I looked at their I wouldn't, because of their policy for employees is very shocking, and you can go look this up on their website. Student workers are not protected. It's the choice of the employer on campus if they can protect you.
From what specifically?
If they
from
don't ableism, just anything in general. It's very shocking. And I had to learn this the hard way, and I was like, you know what? It's gonna make me very aware in the future if I'll work for a university ever again.
Yeah. I think that this is I think it's important and it doesn't matter if it's Western professors at all, because I've had, I'm thankful that now I've not had any issues with my FNL with my professors, but I've had FNLs, not in my high school, because I went to a high school that is for students with either learning challenges or disabilities. But I had that issue in elementary and middle school to where there were some resources that I had in my FNL I was denied, and that really set up the stakes between my parents and my teachers, and so I think that this is becoming a real issue now these days, because it's important for them to know that hey, we need these things because it's our only way that we can, just be able to achieve. Because if we just don't get these accommodations, then, things are not going to work out.
Yeah.
We don't do these accommodations to be better than students.
No.
We do these things. We need these things because we want to,
Succeed.
Exactly. And I think that's I think that's just how the message can get lost or mixed up between professors these days. And so,
And I'm gonna throw something out really fast. I'm sorry. Currently in the session right now in the state of Kentucky, they are trying to pass a bill that could hurt or hinder us in the future at the university level, where they could totally throw away our F&L letters, our faculty.
They can't do that.
Well, somebody has decided that is something they want to do.
It'll never get past Congress, and if it does, I'm gonna go there and make them put it back on.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's gonna be rough.
Yeah, so far it's not been successful, but this was something I had to like write about in my journalism class this semester, and I saw it, and I was like, I can't believe they're doing this.
It's appalling.
Yeah, it is appalling.
Even reason, why does the law need to get involved with this specifically?
Yeah, it's like because of the diversity issue, and I'm like, excuse me, so you're gonna point out everybody who has a disability and everybody of their skin color?
What does the ADA mean anymore?
Yeah,
The ADA has so many loopholes, it's not even funny.
Ridiculous.
But you go.
Yeah. Do you know if it's happening just in Kentucky, or do you know if it's happening in other states in the United States? Because
I don't know those specifics, but I just know about the Kentucky one because I'm in a journalism class, and we had to like piece it together, and I was like, it appalled me. And I remember talking with a few of my tutors who are training to become speech pathologists, and they were shocked too.
I will become a thorn in their butt if they ever pass that bill.
I'm worried for the rest of you because it's about to fall into place between 2025 to 2028 range.
Wait, so it's actually passed?
It hasn't passed, but if it passes, that was the goal.
That's that's not going to be okay.
No.
I'd hate to be under the mercy of or the whim of professors. You know what I mean?
It doesn't make sense on how people view autism in general, because either we're like these overly needy children trapped in adult bodies, or we're these geniuses who can't socialize and are rude to everyone. That is not what autism is at all. We are not on the same level as children. We are not on the same level as dogs. We are not geniuses. We don't have superpowers. We are just we're regular human beings.
Yeah.
We are regular human beings with complicated thoughts, feelings, and our behaviors mean something just like everyone else. And even neurotypicals, it's just a slightly different way of expressing yourself, and sometimes it's not healthy, but we have these accommodations in place for a reason. They can't just take it away. That's not constitutional.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't realize with accommodations, at least, in our situation specifically, there's a very real possibility that if we don't receive them, we may not succeed in college.
Right.
No.
We may not get our degrees
Yeah.
and find jobs and be independent like everyone wants us to be.
Exactly. The only reason why I'm doing so well in school right now is because of this program, the Kelly Autism Program, is because of everything that they have been able to offer me. They can't just take that away.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it sucks to say that they theoretically could, but they shouldn't.
Right. And one thing I will say is maybe that's a topic for the next one, because having a voice for something is the key to getting what you want. And you all are more capable than the people I've usually talked to about expressing things, and not just with this, but with society. It's a very unique perspective, and it's a very valuable one. And that's what I hope we get to convey. Man, y'all are doing a great job. So keep it up. I'll be quiet again.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, and I think that your message is that, it doesn't matter how our level on the spectrum or autism is. It doesn't matter about that. But what matters is that, we matter as people. And I know it's very broad, and, I could go into different discussions, but, but we matter as people, but the thing is that this is a message for not only just for professors, but to people out there who may harass us or for or just anything like that because of all the accommodations we get. And so that's something that's going to be very worrying, especially within the next few years, if this is being talked about, and they're trying to pass some sort of law and all that.
It's also very important for people like myself who are wanting to be part of but don't know anything about it. We're very uneducated, and I want to learn more, and only from the horse's mouth, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that like we were not considered full human beings up until 1970. We were not given rights until 1990. Not 1990, but we were not like we were.
That time?
Yeah, it was around that time, and it was very limited then, and it was supposed to be getting better, not worse. We cannot go back to a time where we don't have rights or where we're not even considered full human beings.
I mean, right now, you know, with all flavors of diversity, we're talking race, gender, you know, course neurodivergencies, and probably more things than I can know to list at the moment.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of policies right about now are either getting rolled back or painted over with a worse coat of paint, so to say.
Have any of you all noticed that when people talk about minorities, and like list all of them, racial minorities, financial minorities, LGBT minorities, religious minorities, they always leave out disabled minorities?
Yeah.
I mean, disability is not a big topic when we talk about intersectionality.
And I've been applying for jobs a lot lately because I'm about to graduate in May.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Officially with my second degree. Whoop whoop. I just want. It's like hard to answer the question of like, do I want to say to this future employer that I'm disabled? Like, most of the time, I usually answer no, or I was like, I don't want to identify because I am like afraid my application will get thrown in the discard pile.
That's happened to me, and I go back and forth on that because telling them straight up that I have autism has prevented me from getting a job. Not telling them got me a job, but then I would cry in the bathroom and I was really overwhelmed because it was not an autism-friendly place at all. If you're autistic, I do not recommend working in a factory of any kind.
I mean, factory work in general is
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
well, overwhelming and very unsafe. I mean, just the meat industry. I'm learning about that in my class right now. But like, if you're working in the meat industry, if you're working in the factories that produce processed meat, those are very hazardous and unsafe working conditions. And chances are, a lot of folks who are undocumented also end up working there, and that's even worse.
And I still,
So much is going on.
and still just like in debate on whether or not you should even tell an employer.
Yeah, I chose to tell an old employer I was disabled, and then they just turned their nose up at me and said, well, we're not going to require you to do much. They're like, we'll just pay you to sit here and not produce much. And I was like,
I would have gotten so
Do
mad.
anymore.
I was upset. Like, I wasn't telling anybody, but I was talking to my friends about it behind closed doors. And I was trying to get my parents who were not listening, but now they're seeing all the signs after I left that company.
Yeah, I would have yelled at them because I don't have very much self-control when it comes to certain things. But
I have a lot of self-control, by the way.
I probably would have gotten fired that day. But then again, I probably wouldn't have wanted to work there if that's all they were going to make me do anyway.
Well, I stayed there for 2.5 years, like switched areas after being a year in the part where they turned their noses up at me. Yeah. And spent another 1.5 years in a different area. But, you know, after leaving that company and going to smaller stations within my field, I would tell you a lot of them have been very welcoming of me when I did share my diagnosis, which is great. That's why I call D93 a family, because it was such a small station and everybody looked at me as if I was a person. Like, they'd ask me how I'm doing and stuff like that. And I was like, that's what I want out of an employer, is I can just have a regular conversation. And that's what I'm also experiencing at my current internship with Woohoo. It's like, these two places I've been very grateful for because they kind of feel like a family atmosphere. Like, they want to make an effort to make conversations. They don't ask me about my disability. They don't judge me. They see me as a person, and that's all I want out of life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's what we all want, right? I mean, I don't think any of us are trying to, like, do anything super life-changing unless one of you. Like, I personally just want to work as a librarian and have a house and have time to do my hobbies. And, you know, if I can do that, like, that's it. That's, like, my life goal. I mean, I don't think we as people ask for much when we say we want to live good lives with good friends and good food and good hobbies.
We ask for what everyone else has and access to it. You were going to say something, right?
Yeah, I was going to kind of talk about what you talked about how you said that you've kind of switched to like a smaller form of your field and how they've been, you know, friendly and accepting whoever you are. But then you mentioned that you were had an intern with a bigger, you know, area in your major, and they just declined you. I think that's a real big concern. Now, I haven't, you know, got into like the field of my major like much yet, but I will say is that I feel like it's becoming, you know, noticeable that a lot of small businesses, like who may be on your field or not, are going to accept people, you know, that it doesn't matter if they have autism or ADHD, because I say that because I have been working at a part-time business. It's a produce market, which obviously has nothing to do with meteorology, but it's really where a place to where that they really care about whoever is working. It doesn't matter which role there is. And from there, I've made, you know, really great friends. I've made great communication, and they just accepted that. But the thing is that it really doesn't matter how big or small, you know, a business is. You know, the real message is that, you know, people on the spectrum are, you know, they're capable of doing things, and it doesn't matter how, you know, big or small. You just need to like give them, you know, just give them some grace, because they can absolutely do, you know, whatever they believe that they could do. And so I think that's just what I come out from that, especially when, you know, if folks want to enter, you know, a big or a small, like a big or small, just, you know, part of their, you know, their major. And so that's just something I just wanted to point out for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like not opposed to going back to working to a bigger company. I'm like, I just am exploring my options at the current moment, but I've had a way positive experience with smaller. And they let me get involved with the community, and the community has been very open and kind. You would be surprised of how many people in Bowling Green are really great people. Like, I talked with a father who had an adult son who was nonverbal, who came up to me at a Halloween event, and he said, I wish my son could be where you are. And I was like, why are you wishing that?
He can.
He can, but at the same time, I'm like, you gotta just trust the process.
Right.
And I mean, and again, like, even if their son, like, were to never become verbal, or perhaps never become quite as independent as you, there's still so many options. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm biased here when I say that American Sign Language, it's hard to learn, but it's worth it, you know? And there's a great community here in Bowling Green with people who are deaf and hard of hearing. I don't know. I think a lot of folks with children with autism are too focused on what they wish they had. They don't focus on what they got right now and how they can make the best of that. You know?
They try to take over.
Yeah.
You know, like it's something about like how parents get so invested in this idea of a child, and then when it doesn't happen, like suddenly it's, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, and Bowling Green's a big autistic community, and we don't realize that because we live in a small world of Western's campus, and and once you step outside and you look and meet the community, you'll meet more than you realize.
Honestly, the only thing I like about Bowling Green is this program. My sister lives here now, but I prefer Louisville, where I'm from. But have any of you all heard of Carly Fleischman?
I don't know.
So she was pretty. She disappeared a while ago, or at least off of the internet. Like, nobody knows where she is. Nobody knows what happened to her. But she was a nonverbal autistic woman who was a huge advocate. Her parents were told that she had the mentality of a 6-year-old, which, by the way, is crap. And so they thought that they could just talk about her in front of her and she wouldn't understand what they were saying. She understood everything, but she could not learn sign language. She did not like that sign language. But when they started coming out with technology about being able to do text to speech, that's when she found her voice. She even wrote a short novel, and she became the first nonverbal autistic talk show host. She has episodes on YouTube. If you was Speechless with Carly, and she has interviewed celebrities, and she has a bit of a dirty mind, so I would not let your children listen to it or watch it, but she has a sense of humor. She is very knowledgeable. She is very intelligent. And there is an autistic man in my neighborhood in Louisville who used to go around playing the violin for money. Someone stole his violin. Well, guess what? People banded together and bought him a violin store. And he still plays in other places for money. And then there's Cody Lee, who is blind and autistic and won America's Got Talent. I did not necessarily care for the autism being because in America's Got Talent, everyone has to have some kind of sob story. It's not about their talent, it's about their sob story. I did not care for them making his autism his sob story. I was not thrilled with that, but he was still able to make a living with his music. And so it doesn't matter if you're nonverbal or not. You can do whatever you want. Just allow them to try.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, nonverbal, deaf, mute, what have you. A lot of folks with those attributes or whatever, they've made perfectly happy lives, and they've contributed a lot to their folks. And I don't like it when people disregard that,
Yeah. What about The Good Doctor? I know that's very sketchy.
Who?
The Good Doctor.
It's a show, and I have not seen it. However, I do not wish to. I have a friend who saw it, and her classmate he was in a group with her and another autistic woman, because she is also autistic. And he was just going on and on about, because the other woman said that it's not accurate. It's not realistic. And he just goes on and on about how they don't know anything about autism, even though they're both autistic. He didn't know that. So he just goes on and on about how that autistic people actually do act like that, and how you have to take his condition into consideration. And they're just staring at him like, you moron.
Yeah. I was my parents and I watched about only a few episodes, but I just saw some clips of the most recent season where they actually added a female perspective onto the show of the last season, of course, whatever. And the interaction between the main character and the female, and I was and it was not positive. It was really not.
That kind of classic, autistic.
That's the only representation you get in the media is if someone's going to be autistic, they're going to be a Sheldon Cooper or the Good Doctor.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's one autistic
female, and that's on Sesame Street, and that's Julia.
Oh my God, that's I don't want to talk about Sesame Street. They used to be. Julia was created by Autistic Self Advocacy Network. They funded that. They funded Sesame Street and gave them autistic knowledge. However, since Autism Speaks, the crap hole that it is, has more money and more publicity, Sesame Street decided to take Autism Speaks, and they talk about Autism Speaks, and they have puzzle pieces everywhere, and Julia is just her character's not even real anymore. And
the caricature.
Right. And I'm just why would you do this? Autism Self Advocacy Network told you what Autism Speaks was. You did this anyway. Why are you doing this to people? You had a chance to do something great, and you blew it.
It's something else.
I was at first happy with the character Julia, but then I saw some parts of the show where they did have her, because I did work for the company that would air it, and I kind of would be like, this is not great representation.
And I mean, Man, I don't know. It's there's something weird about the influence autism speaks. Can I get asked if all of us are aware of that one particular, what they call it, short movie clip, whatever you can. It's about the narrator saying, "I am autism. I'm going to ruin your family."
I have seen, yeah.
I have not seen it.
So it's morbidly iconic, I think.
Yeah, I saw it once, and I even read an article on it from a woman who discovered she had autism while she was taking care of her autistic son, and so so she started talking about that too, and it is horrifying.
It's a wild ride.
It off the internet because of what it was doing.
It was easily like, man, if you thought like the representations we were talking about just a minute ago were bad, that one little what do we call it, infomercial?
Some kind of commercial or ad.
That thing was easily one of the worst things I have ever.
They're constantly comparing autism to cancer and AIDS. You're listening to that. Why? This is not a disease.
Yeah.
You're not going to die from autism.
No.
God, oh. You know what? Oh no. Okay, I was going to bring something up, but that's a little something we can do later. But
Yeah. I would say the best representation in media I have seen talking about autism in a positive way, and they're advocating very heavily, and this is on YouTube, Fathering Autism. Have you heard of?
No.
Okay.
neither about you.
Yeah, I have not either.
I'd say look his videos up. He's a very big advocate for his daughter, who is nonverbal, and he tries to get the correct information out to anybody who's wanting to learn.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
It's hard. He admits the ugly truths on YouTube, and I'm glad he does. Enough for his son to become to go into the field of helping people on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes autism isn't always pretty, you know.
No.
I mean,
No.
we talk a lot about autism positivity, and that's true, but simultaneously, sometimes autism, I don't know. So some people on the spectrum of autism do not get the greatest deal of cards, and it's rough on them and it's rough on their family, but that doesn't mean they're deserving and blessed. You know what I mean?
Yes. And how I found out about this channel was it was right as I started here at CAP back in 2017. That's how long I've been here. Woo woo. And I didn't know how to handle the nonverbals because there were quite a bit here back in 2017, which made the walls feel extra thin some days. Ugh. And I was like, how can I understand them? And the Fathering Autism channel popped up on my YouTube feed, and I've been watching them ever since.
See, like I've known nonverbals before. One is not autistic; he has Rubinstein-Tayby, but which is a chromosomal disability. Language does not always have to be verbal. You can tell what someone wants. I understand that when you're autistic, it's hard to read people, but it's honestly easier to read other autistics. I don't know how that works, but it just is for me at least. And like they want something, they don't like, and you're just like yelling at them like, what do they want? I was like, well, they're pointing at it, they're looking at it, they're screaming about it. I think you can deduce that this is what they want.
Yeah.
Some people just don't know how to work outside social convention. You know, I mean, like they need a child to say explicitly, "I want X thing." And their parents are not ready to switch into the way their child communicates.
I think communication in general is a give and take. We need to not have to conform to each other, but learn how each other communicates and meet each other halfway, instead of just being like, oh, well, they don't communicate the way we do, so if we can't force them to learn how to communicate the way we do, then we're going to communicate for them because they can't they can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, they must be lesser if they cannot speak English fluently. They must be lesser if they cannot write or cannot read.
Right. You haven't said anything in a while. Did you want to say anything?
Well, I just want to say that it's really fascinating to hear about you guys talking about, especially folks on the spectrum who are nonverbal. Now, I really didn't have any experience like that with folks that I've met. and I haven't really been noticing it, out of my time here at CAP much. Maybe just because I don't get involved here much as most people do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just find it really fascinating to listen and hear stories from folks who are on the spectrum, but beyond that, who are just nonverbal. Because I can't even imagine myself if I was nonverbal, because it just sounds like a process to learn, and so I just think it's really fascinating to see how people on the spectrum who are nonverbal to able to grow in their communication among others.
Yeah.
They need to be allowed to have a voice.
Yes.
Yeah, and the topic of nonverbal folks also interests me. I've never met that.
I got to meet several of them because before 2020, the light before 2020, they had a program where there were a lot of nonverbals on the little kid side. They came through the building and they made them interact with us college students if we wanted them to.
Oh, okay, sorry. You finish your thought and then I'll...
And so it was great to interact with them and watch them grow and try to have conversations. I always said yes to them because they're adorable.
I want to point out that people are actually trying to move the label nonverbal to non-speaking, because a lot of people, when they associate nonverbal, they think, oh, this person doesn't have any comprehension of language at all, and that's not the case. They can understand you just fine. They just can't communicate very well. And so a lot of people are actually trying to move to non-speaking, especially because sometimes a child can learn to talk later in life, when they're 6 to or 11 or whatever. Some people stay non-speaking, but I need to do more research actually about whether or not just how offensive it is to say nonverbal, but I do know that for a fact that there's a movement trying to change it to non-speaking.
I didn't know that.
Is there any offense taken when people use the word mute to describe people who do not speak?
Well, mute is when you can't have any sound at all. So like your vocal cords just don't work.
Gotcha.
So it's because you said you're hard of hearing, it's a vocal impairment. So it's not that you can't talk, you can't make any noise at all.
Gotcha.
Right.
I mean, if we want to speak a little bit about terminology, as I said earlier, I call myself hard of hearing. And a lot of folks who are hard of hearing dislike the term hearing impaired.
Really?
Okay.
My cousin Kaylee is hard of hearing, and I know that she has talked about not really associating it with being a disability at all.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard her mention anything about not calling it impairment. So thank you for educating me on that.
Well,
Yeah,
and I mean, if you called me hearing impaired, I wouldn't mind. I grew up with that label, and in my family, in my circles, it was never derogatory. But I know that a lot of other people who cannot hear as well, I guess, prefer hard of hearing. So it's just something I thought I'd throw out there while we're still thinking.
And I know at one point, a couple years ago, this is before COVID times, CAF did talk about taking on nonverbals in the college program. They just didn't say it out loud. It was after the Deej film came out. I don't know if you've heard of Deej. DEEJ.
Oh.
And it was about a nonverbal male who went to college and got a degree, and he was a non-speaking and was able to accomplish what we're accomplishing now.
Yeah, I've actually asked a lot of questions about that. I was like, how come everyone here seems to be around the same level? Why aren't there more people on the further side of the spectrum? And I was told they don't get applications for it. And but some of the little kids from the other programs here in the CEC building are nonverbal, and their parents are planning on sending them here.
Yeah.
So eventually we will have those a more diverse
Community?
diverse like groups, a diverse group
Program.
our diverse program. That is a goal of theirs in the future, because it had been talked about after
Yeah.
the showing of the film, because a lot of us had questions after the film. I remember asking Sarah, Michelle, and some other staffers, Peyton, and someone else who's not here anymore, of like, will we see nonverbals in our program at some point? And they're like, well, we're hoping to work towards this goal. And I was glad to hear that. I was scared, but I'm like, well, you know what? Not all the world talks.
I think another problem with people who are non-speaking is that their families to control their lives. They think that they can't do anything, so I have to do it for them, and we get that to a certain extent too. But a lot of times, people think that if you're non-speaking, then you can't understand what they're saying, or you can't make decisions for yourself, and that you're on the same level as a child. That's not true. I point out any child, and I can tell you exactly how this person does not act like a child.
Yeah.
It's just that I think that they need to be given just as much of an opportunity as we have been given. And it's not easy for us, but it's even harder for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my parents are right now having a hard time of me moving out of state. I actually said, well, I applied for a job in Louisiana, and that my parents had an issue of, we don't want you to move to Louisiana if you get a job opportunity there. And I'm like, so they have they have a more looser control of me, but they're scared of me moving out of state to take a job that I want.
Now, with parents with kids with disabilities often have a harder time letting go, because when you are a parent, your goal is to make your kid able to take care of themselves and thrive. Your goal is to have them leave eventually. But if they have a child with a disability, that ability to let go and let them try to live their own lives is apparently even harder for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I can relate on this somewhat.
I will also say that goes for any parents with kids. My parents didn't want me to do stuff outside of the state when I got out of college, regardless, even after I took 6 years in a summer class for my one degree, right?
Yeah.
So I think some things are definitely more apparent for what you all are talking about. But of course, I'll give some parents a little bit of leeway. They don't want their babies to grow up,
Yeah, and I'm their last living child. Because I have shared with some people that know me close. I had a half older brother that passed away from cancer back in 2017. So they're more cautious with me. They have had a little leeway with me, but they still have a hold on me, and they're not ready to see their girl go off. And I'm like, well, there's places I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the goal,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking after college of getting some work in Philadelphia. I hear they have like good living rates, but I'll still make city wage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited for that, but
I don't know. I can feel totally related, because I have both of my parents, especially over the years. They have, they're always, there for me in any way. But it's just when it comes to, me wanting to move out of their house, go into the real world, and to prove them that I can do all this. They're good with that. But the thing is that I feel like what we've been talking is that I feel like parents who have a child who is on the spectrum, or no matter what it is, they just have like, I don't know, they just have a really hard time of letting go. And I think they do that because, one, they're not a fan of change, or two, they're just afraid of what could happen to them if they get a job out of state. Because I've had a talk with my dad before, to where he was like, well, what if you get a job, out of state, and such? And he was like, are you consider doing that? And I'm like, there's a chance it could. And then he's just he would say things like, he would jokingly say that he would move to out of state with me, or he would want to, and he's a dentist, and, and that means that he would have to move basically everything that he's built, in our hometown, and move everything down there just to make sure that we're all good. And I think they just do it because it's not just they want to let go, but they just want to make sure that we're good. But at the same time, it's like we want to give our parents a message that it doesn't matter if we're going to get a job in state or out of state. We're capable of doing things, but it just may have to acquire some change that they may not like, or, something that's going to, have a big fear on their minds, to where they're going to be thinking about me a lot, or thinking about, what could happen if this and this works or doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Another thing, or one of the reasons I think that a lot of parents have difficulty letting go of their children, particularly, of course, children with disabilities, is that a lot of parents build their identities around having kids.
Right.
Yes.
Especially or particularly if they're a stay-at-home parent or a parent of a child with a disability. And I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh,
Yeah.
You don't have,
It's like their
any-
entire lives of their child.
Right.
Well, there's that, and also, like, I was specifically thinking of, you've probably seen it if you don't, and I don't have any specific name for it, but there's people who say they're like mom, like they join groups and they have little tags or little gimmicks of being part of a group or being a thing of, like, I'm a mom, I'm a mother of an autistic child, and that is like suddenly like a tag. And
Yes, part of they make it part of their identity.
yes, and they and some take it so far where they're like, woe is me, I'm a mother of an autistic child.
I can't stand those people.
Yeah, and they get so many views and so many people reaffirm it, and it's like, or
They're
like,
using
woe
their
is
child to
me,
get
my child
famous.
has a disability, et cetera, et cetera. I do a lot of stuff.
Oh, and it's and I'll say this, it's like it's scary, I'm gonna say, but like if you still let your kid go 2 hours away but you won't let them move out of state, I'm like, okay, you still want some grip, but how are you supposed to grow as a person if your parents can still get to you?
Right.
Well, I'm pretty lucky in the parent department because my parents are very accepting and accommodating people. And I think that if I moved out of state, which I don't want to do, but if I did, they would be sad. They were sad with my sister moving, staying in Bowling Green, and she's only 2 hours away. But they would be happy for me. They would allow me to do that, and I think that's what every parent should do. Your goal is to get your kid to be able to do stuff as much on their own as possible. And and as we've mentioned before, there's no shame in needing assisted living or no shame in needing that kind of help. But that doesn't mean you put a crutch on your own child.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I'm not hating on my parents. I love them. But I'm at an age where I'm like, can I just please have some control? I will tell you, they were nervous for me when I was doing my 10-week internship. They were like, I don't know if I can trust this Tony Rose. And I'm like, everybody in the community of Bowling Green trusts Tony Rose.
Right. But
He's one of the best options.
Yeah, he's like he has the top morning show here in Bowling Green. If you don't know.
I have never heard of him.
No one's news enough.
Oh man, good job you don't get up that early.
it's just a message to parents out there who have children on the spectrum, is that if you keep them held back, or like if you tell them no, we're not going to let you do this, whatever it is, you're taking a step back from their progress. Like you're not letting, it's like they're like being held back of what they want to do. And now I know that it can be hard sometimes for parents to, let their child go and all that. But if you just keep them held back and live in their household or whatever that they decide to do with their child, it's just going to delay their progress of growing even more. It's like, and it's going to make them feel like they can't take the next step. But I think it's just what's important for parents to know, and it's anyone out there, that your child needs to do the things that you may not want them to do, or you don't feel like that's best, but in the end, that it's going to be worth for them to take the risk and going out of state instead of holding them back and keeping them in your household and just kind of delaying their process of growth, because that's what all of us want to do. We want to grow. We want to show like everybody that we can do things, and it may require us to move out of state or do like an internship that's really big and such. And
like
so
some opportunities have risk, and you need to be able to take those risks.
And to that point, just because you're afraid of letting your kid go doesn't mean that you should inhibit their ability to progress. Because if you grow up hearing your entire life that you are not capable of doing anything, that you are not capable of doing these things, then you live in your own mind. You give up on yourself and you live in your own mind, and you don't even want to try because you're told that you can't, that you're just going to fail. Don't do that. That's so messed up. You have no idea what they are capable of.
Absolutely.
Only they can discover that for themselves.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I have a friend back in Louisville, we went to the same high school, same cottage school, there are only 20 of us still in the entire thing. But actually I knew her back in middle school too, man. But she, I think she's a very smart girl, she, I don't know how she does it, but she can she can mess with these 3D models on Gmod and shit, and do all these layers and texturizing. I don't know any of that, man. But she figured that all out on her own, And but she has some parents who don't believe in her, and who don't they I don't know. And it's just rough because she believes what her parents say about her.
And those kind of parents think that they're so great too. They think, oh, look at all the stuff I'm doing for my kid. And I was like, well, actually, you're taking their opportunities away.
It's just rough because she has older siblings who are going to college and are supported by her family, but her family probably won't let her they're more hesitant about her going to college than her siblings, who I don't know. It's really rough. So I can tell you, I've seen it. I can just see, I've seen my friend who believes that she can't do these things. But
sometimes, sometimes the parents are told these things, and so they personally believe it by people who call themselves experts, like ABA therapy and some cognitive behavioral therapies that they're not healthy, they're not good for you, and you can't listen to you're not even looking at what they're doing to your child, you're not even caring about what they're doing to your child. All you're doing is listening to them, and they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're talking about.
And I think a lot of that is because there's lack of information. There isn't really a place where I would go to find out where to go to even find out what's going on. And I hope that by having people that can hear stuff from you all and understand how this works, that we can help change that. That's really a big goal for this. And believe it or not, we've been going for an hour and 5 minutes.
Whoa.
And
I guess we have to leave then.
Well,
No.
I want to make sure that you all enjoyed this enough to try to do it again. I would like to have further discussion about some of these topics. I've been taking a bunch of notes, and I would love to have you back if y'all have any interest in doing something like that.
I think we would all love to come back.
I'm good.
I'm always
I'm
down.
not sure if this felt. No, I mean, I'm going to tell you, I have had a great time all day today, and I look forward to doing it again. And all right, I'm going to sign this off. I'm David Downing. Who am I with today?
I'm Hannah. You can hear me twice a week at Woohoo 107.
Carolyn Gorson, you'll hear me whenever Heat Hour host is kind enough to invite me on.
Shay Ryan Kessler, I don't know if you'll ever hear me except for on this podcast. So,
and I'm William Cox, and it's been such a really good podcast, and thanks for having us on.
Hey, we look forward to more, y'all. Thanks for making it happen. We appreciate you. We'll see y'all next time. Peace. We'll have a name by the next time, okay?
Okay.
Deal.
Right.
Peace out, y'all.